This video is sponsored by Squarespace. Hey guys, Jay here. Welcome to Models Memories Weekly, episode 190. Models Memories is a show about nothing and is filmed in front of a live studio audience. This is a show where I talk about painting, modeling, and wargaming experiences from the week. Now you might be thinking to yourself, Jay, you put out 3 videos a week. How could I possibly have more to say? Well, I do, and here goes. This week, Games Workshop showed off another really cool Necromunda guy. There's a new Dwarf Engineer, and we got a chance to look at the new Phoenix Lord because it got leaked online. But first, have you ever noticed that websites are all about squares? Well, today's sponsor, Squarespace, can help with that. Squarespace allows anyone to design the website of their dreams with the most powerful and easiest design tools in the industry, like Design Intelligence. Using AI technology empowers anyone to build a more personalized website tailored to their needs, crafting a bespoke digital identity. Choose from a professionally curated selection of styling options to build a unique online presence from the ground up. Squarespace makes sure it's easy to launch your website and get discovered faster with integrated optimized SEO tools so you show up more often to more people and grow the way you want. With Squarespace, it's never been easier to set up a unique online storefront. Whether your services are physical, digital, or service-based, selling your wares has never been easier. Squarespace offers unmatched ability to showcase your unique wares with images, videos, reviews, and add-ons all capped off with their seamless checkout tools, letting your customers use whatever system they prefer, whether Klarna, ACH Direct Deposit, Apple Pay, Afterpay, or ClearPay. Squarespace has a free trial for you to dip your feet into and test the waters, and ready to dive in headfirst, and go to squarespace.com/EonsOfBattle or follow the link in the description to get 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Necromunda gets so many really cool miniatures. Last weekend, I actually got another box of Necromunda House Escher Gangers, which I have a lot of Necromunda stuff, and I've just been picking it up here and there, and I have enough for like 3 full Escher Gangs now, including some of the really cool Forge World goodies, but I'm just waiting. I'm waiting for like the perfect opportunity to dive in. I've played 2 games of Necromunda, and Necromunda is a really fun game. It's like Kill Team, but with more rules, but with more flavorful rules. And this new guy, it looks like he's gonna have a lot of flavorful rules. He looks like he's ripped straight from The Matrix with his little computer screens, which is also kind of funny because this guy's lore is that his body doesn't work because he tried to merge with like a machine spirit and it rejected him and it destroyed all of his senses, but now he can see inside of technology. Why does he have computer screens that shine on his not functioning eyeballs? In fact, he wears like metal armor over his face. So it doesn't really make sense that he has computer screens, but it looks really cool. It helps sell the idea that he's like the super cool secret hacker from the movie Hackers. If anybody remembers that movie, it's really good. But I also like his little skeleton friend. Oh, that's why he has the computer screens, because he has a little servo skull connected to his brain. So the servo skull is his eyes that actually look at the computer screens. That's super fun. Necromunda. In Necromunda, you can actually hire anybody to join your gang, and so this is just another guy that you can hire into your gang. I think he is a member of the Von Saar, but I think any gang can actually hire him in, and it's just a really neat, disgusting miniature. Oh, there's another little servo skull, and it's like a little tiny baby servo skull. And usually servo skulls are from like babies because they're vat grown, but it's just even weirder to have just like a tiny little baby skull. Necromunda is so like ghoulish and creepy and cyberpunky. It's really neat. And since 40K has not been getting that many releases, I feel like Necromunda is scratching that itch a little bit for me, but I need to start building and painting, but I have so many projects on the painting desk right now. Got so much 40K, I got Moonstone, I got some Malifaux that I'm ready to rock and roll on. It's a lot. But speaking of one of the many projects I'm working on, help your dwarven armies shoot straight and true with the ingenious Borlak Derminson. It is a new dwarf engineer who looks absolutely dapper. This guy is really good. I love his gigantic backpack with smokestacks that are kind of meant to look like the parapets of like a medieval castle. His humongous hammer, and his hammer has like a little glyph carved into the front of it, which I think the Mythbusters tested this and it's not true, but I like to think that the hammer, when he smashes something, it leaves behind an impression of that symbol on the enemies that he smashes. He's got his little 3-shot pistol. It's really good. I like the dwarves a lot. I have a ton of dwarves. I got pretty much a half of an army put together, mostly just like the infantry guys, and so now I want to work on some of the more bespoke units. But when Games Workshop showed off the Dwarven Battle Box, I actually happen to already own every single model that comes in that box because I bought a few of people's used dwarf armies. I bought one from a friend of mine, and then I got some more smatterings of stuff on eBay. And so I actually have everything I need for a dwarf army. I'm just waiting on Sean to finish his Bretonnians so that I can finally try out Old World because it looks very neat. I'm a part of a bunch of Old World Facebook groups, and I think every single day somebody posts like a picture of their game saying, how on earth does this pivot mechanic work? I want to pivot like my Pegasus Knights in a certain way. Would this go onto like the front of my opponent's movement tray or the side of the movement's tray? It does look like movement is a really, really big deal in the game. And that's probably good because movement is usually not super utilized, especially in Games Workshop games where you do all of your moving in one single phase. And so everything that needs more movement generally just has more movement. Like anything that's very close combat focused will usually have abilities to advance and charge to get extra movement, or will just have a larger move characteristic in general. So I really, really want to give the pivoting a try. And I like the guns. I like that the dwarves are they have flying machines and they have guns. And I mean, it is a fantasy world setting, which usually doesn't have a lot of guns, but that makes me interested to actually play a faction that does have a lot of guns in that scenario. But speaking of other Warhammer games, Games Workshop decided not to show off any new things for Warhammer 40k for the rest of this year, which is a little bit of a bummer. Especially, it seems weird because usually I feel like you want to show off some really fun stuff around Christmas time, but I guess not this year. But then Games Workshop were liars because they showed off the new Fugen model. Technically it got leaked, so they just put out the article so that people could see it in all of its glory instead of in the leaked image. And apparently this thing isn't coming out. I don't think it's even coming out first next year. I think the Eldar are second. But the new Fugen, I like saying Fugen, and Fugen Orange is a contrast paint color. It's pretty good. It is a ultra saturated orange color. Probably not a bad one to own. I've been, like every time I go to my friendly local game stores, I'll usually get like a pot of contrast paint. I found that a lot of the browns are really bad. And technically contrast paint, the only ones that are gonna really behave like contrast paint are the ones where you hold up the little pot and it looks almost black. Those are the colors that you put them over like a white base coat and they're gonna look really, really good. The other colors are transparent glazes, and Fugen Orange is very much a transparent glaze. But I find it really, really useful, especially with yellow, because yellow is kind of a tricky color to work with because when you want to darken it, you don't want to just add brown because then it just becomes like a really yucky, spoiled banana color. But if you use orange, then those shadows are really, really nicely saturated. I really like that color. But I also really like Fugen himself. He's really, really cool. I am not much of an Eldar fan. I do like the Aspect Warriors a lot, but just the normal Eldar, the Dark Eldar are much, much cooler. Fugen has his gigantic Melta rifle, and I also love that it's like it's a Melta that kind of looks like a sniper rifle because it has a humongous long barrel, and I really like that it is held up above him so it does not stick out over the parameters of the base. I think it just looks fantastic on the model, and it means that this model is actually going to be very playable on the tabletop. Really long barrels, like on snipers and stuff, is really risky. I got the Eldar kill team. What was it? Hand of the Court of the Archon of the Eldar, something like that. And I broke the sniper guy's barrel off because it just sticks out. It's this tiny little antenna that sticks directly out the side of the model. I think I broke all of those models. Eldar are really, really finicky, but this guy doesn't look too bad. He looks like he would hold up really nicely to play. I love his gigantic, silly, like winged helmet. I like his weird little, like crabby mandible face. His little flag in the background with the fire salamander. It's really, really good. The only thing that's not super doing it for me is probably his sculpted base. I do like the On Fire Chaos Space Marine head, but I think I would use that bit somewhere else. I probably wouldn't use it for him because, I don't know, for some reason, they're not on the same side. Like Chaos and the Eldar, they don't like each other. But I always kind of like the idea that it's everybody against the Imperium of Man. And so all of the bads are kind of working together to undermine humanity, as opposed to everybody is equally at war with each other all of the time, which is the plot of Warhammer 40k. But I like, in the grim darkness of the far future, when the situation is unbelievably dire, I like to imagine it as bad as possible. So I don't even like to think of the enemies of my enemies are working against one another. I think every single thing is against humans. I think this guy is a 10 out of 10. I think he's a fantastic model. They do show you the behind view of this model. I gotta say, the Tushy, it's good. It's a good Tushy, but I would only give it like a 6 out of 10. It's not one of the best sculpted rears that we've seen in the 40k lineup, but it's not bad. And I am excited to see what else comes for the Eldar. I feel like the Eldar are actually in a decent place. They don't have as many miniatures as like Orcs or Tyranids or Space Marines, definitely not Space Marines, but they have a lot more stuff than like Dark Eldar or World Eaters, way more than Leagues of Votann. So I'd be interested to see if it's just all gonna be refreshes to some of their older kits. Obviously, Striking Scorpions got an update, but Warp Spiders did not. I played a game against the Eldar, and the Warp Spiders are the most annoying thing ever because they can jump like 30 inches, and they're just the piddliest nothing units. If anything shot at them, they would die. But because they have so much movement, they can just get right where they want to be and then shoot with their flamethrowers. Technically, they're not flamethrowers. They're super hyper advanced Eldar, wiggly, mechanical mechadendrites, gun thingies. They're spider web shooters, but the spider web super cuts you up. It's a whole thing. But I would like to see those models get a refresh because they are old. They are really, really old. Also, the Swooping Hawks desperately need an update. I've built so many Swooping Hawks because I actually did a commission project for an Eldar army once, and that Eldar had a lot of Swooping Hawks in it because they must have been really, really good in like 8th edition. But I think Eldar are neat. I would like to see them push the look of Eldar a little bit more. I just kind of wish that Eldar didn't look like hot people. I think that's a really lame look for elves. I also have this problem with like Lord of the Rings in general. It's like dwarves look cool, Gimli's like he's thick, he's got like the Danny DeVito energy, and that like makes sense that he's something different than humans. The hobbits got big hairy feet, but the elves are just hot Orlando Bloom. That doesn't strike me as a different species. So I would like to see kind of spookier, creepier Eldar. Eldar can be like gorgeous and beautiful, but to themselves. Like orcs love muscles and stuff, but like to a human, an orc is absolutely disgusting. But Ghazghkul's probably pretty hot by orc standards. And speaking of standards, a few weeks ago, Games Workshop showed off the new points balance data slate for Warhammer 40k, and I've been playing with it for the past couple of weeks. It seems completely fine, no humongous changes. One thing that did break my heart a little bit is that Black Templar got a nerf, which is really, really sad. Games Workshop noticed. Games Workshop saw that I've been beating Sean a little too regularly, and by regularly, I mean one time. So my army got nerfed. Just a little bit. The characters you really want to take, like High Marshal Helbrecht, they all went up in points by 10. The Crusader squad went up to 150 points, so it's now exactly the same price as a squad of Assault Marines, although they're still much better than Assault Marines, so is probably fair. But I don't know, Black Templar, we have so few things. I guess we have every single thing that comes in Space Marine. So we don't want to take those things. We want to take the Black Templar things. So it is a little bit sad to be able to take less of the actual Black Templar things. Although the Invader, the Primaris Invader ATV, I think went down to 60 points, which is wildly cheap. It's toughness 5, I think 8 wounds. Devastating wounds on the minigun turret that can goes on top, or a multi-melta. I think it might be viable now. No, it's been a really, really bad unit for a very long time, and I still wouldn't. For some reason, the ATV can be taken by itself, or if you can take it with a regular squad of Primaris Outriders. I feel like you never take it with the Outriders because it just makes the squad really, really expensive, and it doesn't give you any utility. You don't get its special rule alongside the Outrider special rule, so always take it separately, but I might throw one in my list for 60 points. I think it would actually be kind of worth it. because often with Space Marines, I find since I have so few units, I use scouts for doing a lot of my secondary mission things, but always really early in the game, I draw like B in the middle or B in a terrain feature that is not in your deployment zone. The ATV is actually pretty small, so it can zoom to those spots really easily and get me some points. For 60 points for Space Marines, pretty darn cheap. Also in the balanced data slate, Dark Eldar got, I want to say a little nerf, but it feels like a little bit of a big nerf because pretty much every unit you'd really want went up 5 points. But I actually think that's fair. I don't notice a difference playing with units that cost 5 more points than normal. And I do like when things are a little bit more expensive because then you take fewer models and the games take just a little bit less time to play. When I play against like Adeptus Mechanicus or Sisters of Battle, those armies are big and they take a long time to play those games. And I also am in the same boat with Dark Eldar because it's a really big army with a lot of models and it does take a long time to play. So for the most part, I'm fine with the 5-point changes. My list went up like 35 points, so I can take another enhancement if I want because I take 2 normal Archons. So one Archon had the enhancement where you can't overwatch the squad he's attached to, so I'll just have to look for another little enhancement. But speaking of Dark Eldar, I've been working on my Court of the Archon. I had a video Monday talking about this particular unit in my Dark Eldar army. And so I finished the Urgal and the Lamian. And so now I have to do the Medusa and the Slith. And then I will have a perfect little Court of the Archon to play with. But I really like how these guys turned out. They painted up really nicely. The Urgal was like an 1.5 hour paint job. It was really, really quick. The Lamian took forever. The Lamian was probably a 5-hour paint job, maybe even a little bit longer. And I think there's still a little something I would like to do to her. On the Urgal, at the end of it, I held him upside down and I airbrushed teal from underneath. And I think that gave him some really nice shadows that kind of, like, I kind of have a glam pop or a glam rock paint scheme for my Dark Eldar. And so I feel like that helps this guy a lot. Where my Lamian, especially because she's so detailed, it kind of feels a little coloring book where every little part of her is painted correctly. But I feel like maybe a little pop of color from underneath would blend some of those things together and make her look a little bit more natural. So that might be something I try on her, but overall, I am really liking my Dark Eldar and I'm feeling pretty darn good about this army. I started this army this year as a little project between me and Scott the Miniature Maniac because we both had big Dark Eldar armies that were unpainted. And so I'm feeling pretty confident that I'm gonna have my army done by the end of this year. And Scott, we'll see where he's at. My Dark Eldar army is going swimmingly, but you know what else is going swimmingly? That's right, our website. EonsOfBattle.com is the place to find our new merch, like the Nick and J dice. These have been rolling pretty hot for me recently when I play Dark Eldar. Not so much when I play Black Templar, but I have been rolling pretty good in my Spearhead games, so maybe I should just play Age of Sigmar only. EonsOfBattle.com is the best way to support us doing what we do with a membership. Each month, members will get a credit that they can use on our new monthly terrain pack or any previous pack we have ever made. For the month of November, EonsOfBattle.com is getting chaotic with the Desecrated Engine, a war machine that could loosely be called a tank, but such an ordinary word does not properly describe the power of this demonic machine. With grasping chainsaw-tipped claws and a tummy blaster that won't quit, this unstoppable engine of chaotic might can roar its way through a battlefield. This insect-like monstrosity comes fully loaded with armor and weapon options so that it's ready to rumble with any army that dares to face it. It's been a really fun week of wargaming. I have been working on my Court of the Archon, and I feel like I'm being pulled in so many different hobby directions, but right now, it's Court of the Archon, and as soon as I'm completely finished and varnished with Court of the Archon, then I can move on to some other things, but I gotta get painted on Court of the Archon. Thanks for watching.